Hey everyone, I'm Carl Azus, welcoming our viewers worldwide to CNN 10. Over the past few weeks, there's been a series of terrorist attacks in the South Asian country of Afghanistan. We reported on a suicide bombing that killed 57 people on April 22nd. Several other assaults carried out yesterday killed 31 more people, including 10 journalists. In one case, a blast went off in the Afghan capital of Kabul. Afterward, when reporters and crew members had gone to the scene to cover it, an attacker set off a second explosion that apparently targeted them. Several international news organizations paid tribute to the employees they lost in the attacks. The ISIS terrorist group, which has been active in Afghanistan, said it was responsible, but it didn't give any proof for that. A separate explosion that happened hours after these in Kabul killed 11 people at a religious school and injured several Romanian soldiers. No one claimed responsibility for that bombing. U.S. Ambassador John Bass spoke out against the attacks and said America stood with the Afghan people in their fight for peace and security across Afghanistan. ISIS, a group that threatens that peace, doesn't operate only in Afghanistan. Its name is an acronym for Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. That's something it's wanted to establish based on its extremist interpretation of Islam. And though ISIS has been repeatedly defeated in those two countries, losing much of its fighters and territory, other nations in the region are taking steps to defend themselves against the terrorists.
This is Eager Lion 2018, Jordanian-American war games in the desert. U.S. and Jordanian forces have been holding joint exercises like these for years. And during those years, the scenario was fairly generic. With the passage of time, however, the scenario they're working on seems to look ever more like Syria. The troops are simulating an assault on an imaginary refugee camp that has fallen under the control of extremists.
Syria is, on their border, and Syria and the refugees that are coming towards Jordan is a concern.
This actual refugee camp, Rukban, sits on the Syrian side of the border with Jordan. In recent years, ISIS has targeted Jordanian forces from Rukban, and officials here worry ISIS cells have multiplied there.
We have in Jordan here, we have to be prepared for all scenarios actually. Whether it is Rukban camp, whether it is another camp, whether it is a sudden, influx of the Syrian, refugees again from Al-Ghouta or from Damascus or from any other part of Syria into Jordan.
More than 1 million Syrians have fled to Jordan in the past 7 years, putting strains on an already weak economy. Yet another source of instability, warns analyst Amr Sabeli.
I think Jordan might suffer from having bad economic conditions, which might turn to social protests. And at this stage, there's a new strategy for terrorist group to seize any social protests and trying to radicalize it.
And so they're also practicing for unrest sparked by the hypothetical intensification of U.S. strikes on Syria. These aren't real protesters, by the way, but rather Jordanian military personnel drafted to play the part. Complete with a simulated evacuation of U.S. embassy staff, who are then flown to ships in the Red Sea. And no exercise with Syria in mind would be complete without a simulated chemical attack. Training also focuses on the possible use of biological and nuclear weapons.
Everything has to do with Syria and Iraq and the whole region. So it's the culmination of all of those things.
A culmination of an array of possibilities, none of them, alas, remote.
10-second trivia. What modern telecommunications company traces its roots back to the Brown Telephone Company? Sprint, AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile? Brown Telephone, founded in 1899, is a part of the history of Sprint Corporation. That could include T-Mobile, too, if the proposed $26 billion merger between Sprint and T-Mobile goes through. The companies say this would make it easier for them to build a fifth-generation network across America. That's better known as 5G. It would mean faster internet speeds for mobile devices like smartphones. The merger would also help the new Sprint T-Mobile company better compete with Verizon and AT&T, who currently dominate the U.S. market. T-Mobile's CEO says the merger would create jobs and lower prices for consumers. Some Wall Street analysts say it would have the opposite effects. Either way, it would reduce the number of wireless carriers in America. The new company, Verizon and AT&T, would be the only three. Major business mergers need U.S. government approval to go through, though, and that's not a given. The Trump administration is currently suing to block AT&T from buying Time Warner. That's the parent company of CNN. Up next, wrestling is one of the oldest known sports in the world. And Jay Pollock, who goes to Upper St. Clair High School in Pennsylvania, doesn't just excel at wrestling, he's awfully good at helping others too. Jay's an example of a positive athlete, a new series that shines a light on high school students across America who are standout people as well as athletes. CNN.com/positive athlete is where you can nominate someone you know.
I started wrestling in 2nd grade. I love the competitiveness. It's you wrestling, and whenever you have success, it's your success.
He's just a positive person. He's positive in school. I never hear him, say anything negative about anybody.
Outside of school, I'm really involved with the special needs programs. In our school, I'm involved in the Partners in PE program. Partners in PE is a gym class every day of the first period, where we have students come in and participate in a gym class with the special needs students, just to kind of give them the sense of inclusion. I'm an Eagle Scout as well. My Eagle Scout project was running a STARS tournament at our school, where we brought about 180 students with disabilities from 12 different schools in the area.
All right, let's hear it for Avonworth.
We had a big soccer tournament and a bunch of soccer drills.
Jay had he had to plan out the day.
The competitive athletes will start outside on the football field. We're going to dismiss you first.
What skills would they do? How long are they going to be at one station, and how long do we rotate? He had to designate people to help. He had to facilitate other students that were going to be in charge of this or be in charge of that. Jay was the one that made it all go.
I feel I'm really in tune and really good with people with special needs, and I've had a blast doing it. It's made me a better person for sure.
I would be very proud of Jay if he were my son. He's the kind of kid that you would hope that your kids grow up to be.
California's Pepperdine University has spectacular views of the Pacific Ocean and all that goes with it. Take these Pelicans, for instance, who decided that graduation was fit for the birds. No one knows exactly why they decided to descend upon the ceremony. They might have been hungry and looking for handouts, but the fact that they arrived and refused to leave made the event unforgettable. Maybe the crowd was all about pomp and circumstance, but when the Pelicans arrived, you know there was something fishy going on. Why'd they do it? 'Cause they pelican. You know the other seabirds were herring about it, maybe thinking, I bet I'd been there if they were sea gullible enough to think dartering in would fit the spoonbill. We have a feeling the Pelicans had no egrets. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN.